I work as a night janitor at the Grandview Hotel, an old building that's been operating since 1923. Most people don't know about room 237 because it's not listed on any booking system. The door is always locked, and management tells new employees it's under renovation. But I've been here for 3 years, and nothing has ever been renovated about that room. Last Tuesday, around 2 a.m. during my rounds, I noticed the door to room 237 was slightly open. A thin sliver of pale light escaped through the crack. My heart started racing because I knew that room had no electricity connected to it. I grabbed my flashlight and slowly pushed the door open. The room was empty, except for an antique mirror mounted on the far wall. The mirror was massive, at least 7 feet tall, with an ornate golden frame that seemed to shimmer in my flashlight beam. What struck me as odd was that the mirror reflected everything in the room perfectly. Everything except me. I stood directly in front of it, waving my hands, jumping up and down, but my reflection was nowhere to be seen. Instead, I saw a woman standing behind me in the mirror. She was wearing a 1920s flapper dress, her face pale as moonlight, with hollow black eyes that seemed to bore into my soul. I spun around, but the room was empty. When I looked back at the mirror, she was closer, much closer. Her mouth was moving, but I couldn't hear any sound. I watched in horror as she pressed her hands against the inside of the mirror, as if it were a window she was trapped behind. That's when I noticed the scratches, deep gouges in the mirror's surface, spelling out words. Help me. Trapped. Since 1927. She keeps the others. I backed away slowly, but the woman in the mirror began to scream silently, her mouth opening wider than humanly possible. The mirror started to crack, spiderweb fractures spreading from where her hands pressed against the glass. I ran. The next night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Against my better judgment, I returned to room 237. This time, the mirror showed my reflection normally, but there was something different about my eyes in the reflection. They looked older, sadder, and when I blinked, my reflection blinked a second later. Over the following weeks, I started noticing changes. My reflection began doing things I wasn't doing, smiling when I frowned, moving when I stood still. Other people started commenting that I looked tired, that my eyes seemed distant. Last night, I finally understood what was happening. I was standing in my bathroom at home, brushing my teeth, when I saw her in my bathroom mirror. The woman from room 237 was standing behind my reflection, and she was wearing my face like a mask. I touched the mirror, and it was warm. My reflection smiled at me, but I wasn't smiling. It mouthed the words, "Thank you for the trade." I haven't looked in a mirror since. I can feel her wearing my life, and I'm slowly fading away. If you're reading this, whatever you do, don't go looking for room 237. And if you see your reflection acting strange, run. Because once she notices you, the trade has already begun.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now, before the next nightmare finds you.
My daughter Emma started drawing disturbing pictures when she turned 6. At first, my wife Sarah and I thought it was normal childhood creativity. Kids draw monsters and scary things all the time, right? But Emma's drawings were different. They were too detailed, too precise, and they always featured the same recurring characters. The drawings showed a tall, thin man in a black suit with no face, standing next to children who were crying black tears. Emma called him the Quiet Man and insisted he visited her room every night to show her the sad children who went away. We took her to a child psychologist, Dr. Martinez, who said it was likely just an overactive imagination combined with perhaps something she saw on TV or online. But Emma had very limited screen time, and we were careful about what she watched. The drawings became more frequent and more disturbing. Emma would wake up in the middle of the night and draw for hours, creating scenes of children being led into bark forests, underground tunnels, and abandoned houses. When we asked her about the drawings in the morning, she would look at them with genuine confusion, as if seeing them for the first time. Things escalated when Emma drew a picture of our house, but it was our house from 30 years ago, before we bought it, complete with the old swing set that we'd removed and the oak tree that had been cut down years before Emma was born. At the bottom of the drawing, she had written names: Tommy, Sarah, Michael, Jennifer, Lisa. I decided to research the history of our house. What I found made my blood run cold. In 1987, 5 children had gone missing from our neighborhood over the course of 3 months. Their names were Tommy Chen, Sarah Williams, Michael Rodriguez, Jennifer Park, and Lisa Thompson. All of them were 6 years old. All of them had last been seen playing in the wooded area behind our house. The case went cold. The children were never found. I confronted Emma about the names, showing her the old newspaper articles. She looked at the photos of the missing children and started crying. "They're so sad," she whispered. "The Quiet Man keeps them in the dark place under the house. They want to go home, but they can't remember how." That night, I decided to investigate our basement more thoroughly. Behind an old bookshelf, I found a hidden door that led to a sub-basement I never knew existed. The room was small and dank, with children's toys scattered across the floor, toys from the 1980s, covered in decades of dust and grime. On the walls were drawings, hundreds of them, the same style as Emma's drawings, but older, the paper yellowed and brittle. They all showed the same faceless man, the same crying children, and at the bottom of each drawing was a child's name and a date from 1987. In the center of the room was a small chair, child-sized, facing a mirror that had been painted black. Behind the mirror, I could hear something scratching, like fingernails against glass. I ran upstairs to get Emma and Sarah, but when I reached Emma's room, I found her standing in front of her window, drawing on the glass with her finger. The drawing showed our house with 6 names at the bottom instead of 5. The 6th name was Emma. "He says it's time to go," she said without turning around. "He says the other children are lonely and they need a new friend who can draw their pictures." I grabbed Emma and shook her gently. "Emma, look at me. We're leaving, right now." But when she turned around, her eyes were completely black, and she smiled with someone else's smile. "You can't leave, Daddy. The Quiet Man says the house needs to keep its children. It's been hungry for so long." As I write this, Sarah is packing our bags in a panic. Emma is in her room, drawing quietly. I can hear her humming a lullaby I don't recognize. Every few minutes she calls out, "They're coming up from the dark place, Daddy. They want to play." We're leaving tonight, but I have a terrible feeling it might already be too late. If anyone finds this and we're gone, look for the hidden room, destroy the mirror, and whatever you do, don't let your children draw pictures of faceless men. They might be drawing from memory.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't Don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.
I found my best friend Jake's phone 3 days after he disappeared. The police had given up the search, claiming he'd probably run away, but I knew Jake better than anyone. He wouldn't just leave without telling me. The phone was hidden under his mattress, completely drained. When I charged it and turned it on, I found something that made my skin crawl. A series of voice messages he'd sent to himself, time-stamped from the night he vanished. Message 1, 11:23 p.m. Testing? Okay, this is working. I'm recording these messages because something weird is happening, and I want there to be evidence if something happens to me. I keep hearing whispers coming from my closet. Not like voices exactly, more like static that sounds like words. I know how crazy that sounds, but I'm not imagining it. It's been going on for 3 weeks now. Message 2, 11:47 p.m. It's getting louder. I can make out some words now. It's saying my name over and over. Jake? Jake. Jake. But here's the really messed up part. It sounds like my voice. Like I'm the one calling my own name from inside the closet. I've checked in there 100 times. Nothing but clothes and old boxes. Message 3, 12:15 a.m. I just tried recording the sound, but it doesn't pick up on the phone. It's like it's only meant for me to hear. Wait. Oh God. It just said something else. It said, "Let me out, Jake. Let me out so I can live your life properly." What the hell does that mean? Message 4, 12:33 a.m. I'm scared to turn around. I can feel something behind me, but every time I look, nothing's there. The voice is clearer now. It's definitely my voice, but it's saying things I would never say. Things like, "Your friends don't really like you, Jake. Your parents wish you were never born. Why don't you just disappear? Make everyone's life easier." Message 5, 1:02 a.m. It's not coming from the closet anymore. It's coming from everywhere. The walls, the ceiling, under my bed. And it's not just one voice now. It's like a chorus of me's, all saying different things. Some are crying, some are laughing, some are screaming. I can't make them stop. Message 6, 1:28 a.m. I think I understand now. I looked in the mirror, and for just a second, I saw someone else looking back at me. Someone who looked exactly like me, but their eyes were wrong. Too bright, too hungry. They mouthed the words, "Switch places," and smiled. I don't think these voices are trying to drive me crazy. I think they're trying to replace me. Message 7, 1:45 a.m. The mirror. Oh God, the mirror. My reflection is moving on its own now. It's doing things I'm not doing, saying things I'm not saying. It's trying to step out of the mirror, and I can see its hand pressing against the glass from the other side. I have to get out of here. Message 8, 2:01 a.m. I tried to leave my room, but the door won't open. The handle turns, but it's like something's holding it shut from the outside. The voices are getting excited now, chanting something I can't understand. And my reflection is almost out of the mirror. I can see its fingers coming through the glass like it's made of water. Message 9, 2:15 a.m. It's out. My reflection is standing next to me now, but I can still see it in the mirror too. How is that possible? It looks exactly like me, but when it smiles, I can see that its teeth are too sharp, and its eyes reflect light like an animal's. It's reaching for me now. It wants to touch me. I don't think I should let it touch me. Message 10, 2:33 a.m. It touched me. The moment its skin made contact with mine, I felt like I was being pulled in two directions at once, like something was trying to pull my soul out of my body. I can see myself in the mirror now, but I'm trapped in there, and the thing that looks like me is standing in my room, wearing my life like a costume. Message 11. This is the real Jake talking. I don't know how long I have before it figures out how to work my phone properly. I'm trapped in the mirror world now, and it's taken my place in the real world. Everything here is backwards and wrong. The walls bleed, and there are other people trapped here, people who disappeared years ago, all calling out for help that never comes. If you find this phone, don't look for me. I'm gone. But watch out for the Jake in the real world. It's learning how to be me, but it's not perfect yet. Sometimes his smile is too wide, sometimes it forgets how to blink, and sometimes, late at night, you might catch it talking to mirrors, coordinating with others like itself. Hello, this is Jake. Sorry about those weird messages. I was just messing around with some creepy story ideas for a writing project. Everything's fine now. I'm going to delete these messages and get some sleep. If anyone finds this phone, just ignore everything you just heard. It was all fake, just stories. I'm perfectly normal, Jake, and everything is exactly as it should be. Please don't look for the real Jake. He's not coming back. The last message was sent 3 hours after Jake was supposedly last seen leaving his house. I've been watching the Jake who came back. He smiles too much now, and his eyes don't quite focus right when he talks to people. Yesterday, I caught him practicing facial expressions in the school bathroom mirror, like he was trying to remember how to look human. I haven't told anyone about these messages yet because I'm not sure anyone would believe me. But I'm watching him closely, and I think he knows that I know. Last night I got a text from Jake's number. Stop looking for your friend. He's not coming back. But don't worry, I'm getting better at being him every day. Soon, no one will know the difference. Not even you. I'm scared to go to sleep because I keep hearing whispers from my own closet now.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now, before the next nightmare finds you.
My grandmother left me her old Victorian house when she passed away last month. Everyone in the family thought I was crazy for wanting to live there instead of selling it, but I've always loved old houses with character. What I didn't expect was that this particular house came with previous tenants who had never actually left. The first sign something was wrong came on my third day in the house. I was unpacking boxes in the living room when I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, deliberate steps across the wooden floor. When I went to investigate, the hallway was empty, but I noticed wet footprints leading from the bathroom to the master bedroom. I checked every faucet, every pipe. Nothing was leaking. The footprints were small, child-sized, and they disappeared right at the threshold of what used to be my grandmother's room. That evening, while organizing her belongings, I found a leather journal hidden in her dresser. The entries were written in her shaky handwriting, dating back several years. March 15th. The children are restless again. I can hear them playing in the walls at light. Margaret keeps asking for her mother, and little Thomas won't stop crying about his lost toy soldier. April 2nd. I tried explaining to them that they need to move on, but they don't understand. They think they're still alive. They think this is still 1952. April 20th. Dr. Peterson thinks I'm developing dementia, but I know what I see. The children appear more solid now, more real. Sometimes I can even touch them, and they feel warm, alive. May 1st. I understand now why they can't leave. They're not ghosts in the traditional sense. They're echoes, memories so strong they've imprinted themselves onto the house itself. This house has been their home for over 70 years. The journal entries continued for months, documenting my grandmother's interactions with what she called the echo children. According to her notes, there were 3 of them: Margaret, age 8, Thomas, age 6, and Isabella, age 4. They had lived in the house with their family in the 1950s until a house fire killed them all while their parents were away. But here's what made my blood run cold. The fire department had no record of any fire at this address in the 1950s. I checked historical records, death certificates, everything. The Henderson family had lived in this house during that period, and they had 3 children with those exact names and ages, but they had all moved away to California in 1953. No deaths, no fire, no tragedy. So why were there echoes trapped in my grandmother's house? I decided to try communicating with them, following some of the techniques my grandmother had documented in her journal. That night, I sat in the living room and spoke to the empty air. Margaret, Thomas, Isabella, I know you're here. I'm Sarah, Elizabeth's granddaughter. She asked me to take care of you. The temperature in the room dropped noticeably, and I heard a small voice whisper, "Grandma Elizabeth went away. We've been waiting for someone new to play with us." Over the next hour, the children gradually became visible to me, first as transparent outlines, then as solid as living kids. Margaret had pigtails and wore a yellow dress. Thomas clutched a wooden toy soldier. Isabella sucked her thumb and carried a raggedy doll. They seemed happy to have someone to talk to, chattering about their games, their favorite hiding spots in the house, and how much they missed their parents. But as the conversation continued, inconsistencies began to emerge. "When are Mommy and Daddy coming home?" Margaret asked. Thomas added, "They went to the store. They said they'd be back before dinner, but that was yesterday." But according to my grandmother's journal, the children had been asking the same question for decades. "What year do you think it is?" I asked gently. 1952, Isabella replied. "It's always 1952. Mommy says I'll start school next year when I'm 5, but my birthday never comes." That's when I realized the horrible truth. These weren't echoes of dead children. They were echoes of living children, somehow trapped in a temporal loop that had begun in 1952. Somewhere out there, the real Margaret, Thomas, and Isabella Henderson had grown up, lived their lives, maybe even died of old age decades ago. But their childhood selves remained stuck in my grandmother's house, reliving the same day over and over. I spent the next week researching temporal anomalies, quantum physics, anything that might explain what was happening. I found references to chronological displacement in some fringe scientific papers, the theory that strong emotional trauma could create tears in the fabric of time itself, trapping moments in endless loops. But the children weren't traumatized, they were happy, playful, completely unaware that they were trapped. It was everyone else who suffered. My grandmother had spent years trying to help them, slowly losing her sanity as she realized the futility of it. The breaking point came when I tried to tell the children the truth about their situation. Margaret looked at me with confused eyes and said, "But we can't be trapped, Miss Sarah. Look, Mommy and Daddy just got home." I turned toward the front door, and for a brief moment I saw them, a man and woman in 1950s clothing, walking up the front steps, carrying grocery bags, calling out, "We're home, children!" But as soon as they crossed the threshold, they flickered and disappeared, and the children's faces fell. "Oh," Margaret whispered, "I forgot again. They always come home, but they never stay." That's when I understood the true horror of their situation.
The children were trapped in a loop that included the memory of their parents returning home, but the temporal echo wasn't strong enough to maintain the parents' presence. So the children experienced the joy of reunion, followed immediately by abandonment, over and over, for eternity. I've been living with them for 3 weeks now, and I can feel the house's influence growing stronger. Sometimes I forget what year it is. Sometimes I find myself waiting for my parents to come home, even though they live across the country and I'm 28 years old. The children keep asking me to stay forever, to be their new sister, to play with them always. And the terrible thing is, part of me wants to. Time moves differently here. There are no responsibilities, no deadlines, no aging, just endless childhood, endless play, endless now. The worst part is watching the cycle repeat. Every morning the children wake up excited because today Mommy and Daddy will definitely come home to stay. They spend the day playing, making plans for when their parents return, setting the table for a family dinner that never happens. Then, just as the sun sets, the phantom parents appear, walking through the front door with grocery bags, calling out greetings, embracing their children with joy and relief. For exactly 3 minutes and 47 seconds, the family is complete. I've timed it. The parents kiss the children, ask them about their day, promise never to leave again. The children laugh and chatter, showing off drawings they've made, toys they found, games they've invented. The house fills with warmth and love and the simple joy of being together. And then, like a record skipping, the parents fade away mid-sentence. Sometimes the father disappears while he's lifting Thomas into the air. Sometimes the mother vanishes while braiding Margaret's hair. Always the children's faces fall from pure happiness to confused sadness in the span of a heartbeat. "Where did they go?" Isabella asks every single time, as if she's never experienced this before. "They'll be back tomorrow," Margaret always replies, though her voice wavers with uncertainty. But they remember just enough to make it heartbreaking. Deep down, some part of them knows this has happened before, will happen again, will always happen. They've developed coping mechanisms, little rituals and games that help them forget the pain until the next cycle begins. I tried to break the pattern once. When the phantom parents appeared, I grabbed the father's arm and felt solid flesh, warm skin, a real pulse beating under my fingers. For those precious minutes, they were as real as I am. "You have to stay," I begged him. "Your children need you. They've been waiting for 70 years. He looked at me with kind, confused eyes. 70 years? Don't be silly, miss. We just went to the store this afternoon. We promised the children we'd be back by dinner time." And then he was gone, leaving me holding empty air, while 3 children stared at me with growing suspicion. "Why did you try to keep Daddy from going to work tomorrow?" Margaret asked accusingly. "He has to go to work so he can buy us nice things." It was then I realized that the temporal echo didn't just trap the children, it also trapped fragments of their parents, but only the moments of homecoming, only the joy of reunion. Somewhere out there, the real Mr. and Mrs. Henderson had lived full lives, grown old, maybe even died peacefully in their sleep decades ago. But their love for their children was so strong that echoes of their happiest parenting moments remained tethered to this house, playing out the same reunion scene for eternity. I started having dreams about my own childhood, memories I hadn't thought about in years becoming vivid and immediate.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.
I've been a nurse at Mercy General Hospital for 15 years, and I've encountered my share of unusual patients.
But nothing prepared me for what I discovered in Ward 7, the psychiatric wing, during the month of October last year. It started with patient 847, a man named David Chen, who'd been admitted after a complete mental breakdown. He claimed that shadows were following him, trying to steal his reflection and replace him with something else. Standard paranoid delusion stuff. We see it all the time. What made David different was his uncanny ability to predict exactly when other patients would have episodes. He'd start getting agitated hours before someone in a completely different wing would have a psychotic break. At first, we thought it was coincidence, but it happened too many times to ignore. David would press his face against his door's window and whisper, "They're coming for room 23 tonight." And sure enough, the patient in room 23 would have a violent episode that required sedation. He'd say, "The lady in 15 is going to hurt herself," and we'd find her trying to scratch her own eyes out. Dr. Williams, the attending psychiatrist, was fascinated by David's predictions and started documenting them. She theorized that David might be picking up on subtle cues the rest of us missed: changes in behavior, routine disruptions, environmental factors we weren't consciously noticing. But then, David started talking about the staff. "Nurse Jennifer isn't Jennifer anymore," he whispered to me one night during medication rounds. "Look at her eyes. Really look. Jennifer's eyes were brown, but that thing wearing her face has green eyes, and she doesn't remember that she's allergic to shellfish." I laughed it off, but later that shift, I realized David was right. Jennifer's eyes were definitely green now, and when someone brought crab salad for lunch, she ate it without any reaction. Jennifer had always been severely allergic to shellfish. It was noted in her employee medical file. When I confronted Jennifer about it, she just stared at me for a long moment before saying, "People change, Monica. Eyes can look different under fluorescent lights, and I've been getting allergy treatments." But her voice was also slightly off. The same pitch, the same accent, but missing some subtle quality that made it distinctly Jennifer's voice. Over the next few days, David's predictions became more specific and more disturbing. "Dr. Williams is going to recommend electroshock therapy for the boy in room 31, even though his condition doesn't warrant it. She's not trying to help him. She's trying to erase his memories because he saw something he shouldn't have. The security guard, Marcus, is going to accidentally leave the medication room unlocked tomorrow night. He's not Marcus anymore. Marcus had a scar on his left hand from a childhood accident. This thing doesn't have the scar. They're replacing people slowly, one by one. They wear their faces, copy their memories, but they make small mistakes. They can't perfectly replicate human inconsistencies, human flaws, human warmth." I started paying closer attention to my colleagues, and David was right about the small inconsistencies. Dr. Williams, who had always been left-handed, was now writing with her right hand. Marcus, who used to tell the same 3 jokes on repeat, hadn't told a single joke in weeks. Jennifer, who always hummed while working, was completely silent during her shifts. The breaking point came when David grabbed my arm during a routine check and whispered urgently, "They've noticed that you're noticing. Tonight they're coming for you. When you go home, don't look in any mirrors. Don't answer your phone. And whatever you do, don't let anyone into your apartment, even if they look like someone you trust." I wanted to dismiss it as paranoid rambling, but something in his eyes made me believe him. There was a clarity there that hadn't been present during his previous episodes. That night, I drove home with a knot in my stomach. My apartment building's lobby mirror was covered with a black cloth. The elevator mirror had been removed entirely, leaving only the mounting brackets on the wall. Someone had been there before me. As I unlocked my apartment door, I heard my own voice calling from inside. "Monica, is that you? I'm in the bedroom.
I think someone broke in, but they're gone now." I froze. I lived alone. There was no one in my apartment who should have been using my voice. "Monica, why aren't you answering? Come here, I need to show you something." I ran. I'm writing this from a motel room 3 states away. I quit my job via email and haven't returned home. I've been checking local news, and there's no mention of anyone looking for me. No missing person reports, nothing. But yesterday, I saw a news story about a nurse at Mercy General Hospital named Monica Reeves, who had been recognized for her outstanding dedication and consistency during her 20 years of service. The photo showed someone who looked exactly like me, but her smile was too perfect and her eyes held no warmth. According to the article, this Monica had never taken a sick day, never been late, and never deviated from hospital protocol. She was described by colleagues as remarkably reliable and almost unnaturally efficient. David Chen was found dead in his room 3 days after I left. Official cause of death was listed as suicide, but the article mentioned that he had somehow managed to cover every reflective surface in his room with his own blood, writing the same message over and over. "They wear our faces, but they don't have our souls." I don't know what those things are or what they want, but I know they're still out there, wearing the faces of people we trust, people we love. They're getting better at it, learning to mimic human imperfections. But if you know what to look for, you can still spot them. Watch for people whose personalities shift overnight. Watch for friends who forget important details about their own lives. Watch for loved ones whose eyes seem different, whose laughs sound hollow, whose touches feel cold. And whatever you do, if someone warns you about people not being who they appear to be, listen to them. Your life might depend on it.
If these stories sent chills down your spine, don't vanish into the darkness without hitting that like button. Share your scariest experience in the comments below, because your story might be featured next. And remember, the scariest thing is missing out. So subscribe now before the next nightmare finds you.